We're making fresh bread and honey butter from the Outdoor Boys YouTube channel. I need bread flour, some sugar, dry yeast, salt, and a little bit of water. We're going to start by adding 3 or 4 cups of bread flour to a bowl, and then making a little hole in the middle to put some of that dry yeast in it. Now we're just going to fill that hole we just made with our finger and pour that bread yeast right in there. You're then going to want to get some water. It helps if it's warm, but it doesn't really matter, and just pour it on top of that yeast. Then just add a pinch or 2 of salt and sugar. Again, this amount is up to you. It determines how salty your bread's going to be, so if you're wanting something more savory, maybe add a little bit more salt. Then you're going to want to mix that with your finger and let it sit for 1 or 2 minutes, or until it starts to bubble up. Now that I've waited my 2 minutes, I'm just going to start to knead in that liquid with the flour and slowly add water until it starts to get the consistency of bread dough. If it gets a little bit too sticky like mine did, you can end up adding some more flour later on, but just keep kneading it. It might take 4 or 5 minutes to get the consistency that you want. Once everything's combined, you're going to want to put it on your counter or on a cutting board like I have here and really start to knead it hard like you would with pizza dough. Knead it until the bread stops sticking to your hands or the counter, and then get a plastic bag, throw it in there, and let it rise for 1 to 2 hours or until it's doubled in size. Make sure to leave some air in the bag, but don't have it fully filled up, so that way it does have room to rise. While that bread is rising, we're going to want to get a fire started outside so we can cook the dough. You are going to want to build it up so it gets pretty big, so that way you will have a good coal base to eventually cook your bread on. While we let that fire smolder outside, we're going to start making our honey butter. The measurements here really are up to you. I just get a good glob of butter and then pour some honey in on top of it. You can see I decided later on I wanted a little bit more butter, so I go back and add some more. Then just put the lid on that, and you're going to want to bring that out to the fire. Now that we're back out of the fire, we want to take some of those coals out of that coal base and kind of bury the honey butter in there so it gets a nice even melt.
Now we're filming a video.
Now we're going to take a good pinch of that bread dough we made, depending on how hungry you are. It depends on the size of this. Kind of stretch it out like you would with a pizza dough, just into a little flatbread piece. Stretch it thick enough so you can see some light through it, but it shouldn't be like paper thin. Now we're just going to toss that flatbread we made right onto the coals. When it's ready, it should start to puff up, and you should be able to just straight brush those coals right off.
You ready?
My bread started to puff, so now I'm going to flip it over and toss some more hot coals on top, so that way both sides stay warm, and that top needs a little bit longer anyway. And now my honey butter is ready. Be careful though, because it is hot glass, so I'm wearing an oven mitt and just shaking it up so it combines. Look at that golden deliciousness. My bread's ready too, so we're pulling that off the hotter coals and letting it cool down before I grab it. Now you can just brush off those extra coals that might be on it. The ash left over tastes like flour, and it should be ready to eat. This is so good, delicious, warm meal. Go give it a try.